How can you tell who a person really is? By what they do. There's a book on the book stands right now called The Zone. Has anybody read The Zone? It's on how to eat. It's very hard to follow it, but it's a very interesting book, right? However, there's one point in The Zone which I thought was very interesting. It says that even if you eat out of the zone, in other words, you eat foods that are not great for you, you're only one meal away from the zone. In other words, if you eat chocolate cake and junk food and Cokes and everything else, which is out of the zone, the high performance zone, then don't feel bad about it. Don't beat yourself up on it. Just the next meal, start eating the right foods and you're back in the zone. Now, that's the interesting thing about us, too, because you can make all kinds of mistakes and do all kinds of dumb things, and you can get mad and angry and upset, and you can go off in all directions at once. But at any given time, at any given moment, you can move into peak performance. You can step back in the zone by the thoughts, words, and behaviors that moment, at any given time. Now, if a person does the things that a leader does, as of this moment, what does that mean? It means that that person is a leader. Even if the person has not done these things before, the minute they step into the zone, they are. Because you are what you do. And if you do something different this minute from what you did last minute, you are a new person now. And the only question, and Barry Sears talks about it, is how long do you stay in the zone? Did anybody see that movie with Michelle Pfeiffer called Dangerous Minds? There's a very interesting part of that, and we teach it in accelerated learning, where many teachers are starting to use this in schools now. It's a very powerful principle. She starts off and she says, everybody here has an A. All that you can do in this school semester is lose your A. You start off with an A. Now, all you have to do to keep it is to continue to do A work. If you continue to do A work, you keep your A. And my job, and this is what we teach teachers, is we say, you start off everyone with an A. Everyone has an A, you put it up on the board. Now, for the rest of this semester, we're going to work together. And we are going to work on making sure that all you do is A work. And if you hand in something that it's not A work, we're going to hand it back and we're going to continue to work on it until it is A work. And I'm going to pass out samples throughout the year of what A work looks like. And when somebody else gets an A, we'll circulate it. And the people who get A's will work with the people who don't get A's so that everybody gets A's. But by gum, by the end of this year, everybody's going to have their A intact, right? Now, that is a very powerful thing because you'll find that people will make a certain effort to get something they don't have, but they'll kill to keep something they've already got. And so you all have A's. You all are A students, right? So all you can do to lose your A is do non-A work. And if you do the things that we talked about yesterday, and especially the things we talked about today, if you just do those systematically, you keep your A. You stay in the maximum performance zone. You stay in the top 10%. And all you have to do is, if you fall out of the top 10%, is you're only one action away from getting back in to the zone. Are you with me so far? And so today I'm going to give you some tools, and they're going to be very good tools, and we're going to break up the day as we broke it up yesterday. And then we're going to start talking about my favorite subject of all, which is goals. And we're going to talk a lot about goals for the rest of this morning. My goal for us is that a week, a month, a year from now, you look back and you say, that was the day that turned my life around. That was the turning point in my life. I am where I am and what I am today as a result of what we talked about in that seminar. My goal is not just to entertain. My goal is to bring about long-lasting, permanent, deeply entrenched benefits, and also to give you the tools so forever after you can do it yourself. You can take this workbook, you can teach with it, you can train with it, you can repeat it, you can review it, you can use it again. You'll have the tools that have taken me 25, 30 years to develop, and they're all there at your fingertips. You don't have to spend the hundreds and thousands of hours of reading and research and experience and bleeding and pain. You can just pick it up, start anywhere, and get back in the zone. Get back into A work. Get back into the top 10%. Remember, you're in the top 10% now because you're here. You can only get out of the top 10% by doing non-top 10% stuff, right? Okay, let us begin. One of the most important of all subjects today, and there's a good deal of research that's been done on it over the years, we talk about the leader. The leader. There was a lot of controversy after World War II, and a lot of people are very uncomfortable about the idea of a leader. Today, however, the world is shifting, and we realize that everything is leadership. Everything is leadership. Is that today we have a dearth of leadership. We have the biggest, most powerful, most wonderful country in the entire world. Where are the leaders? Where are the men and women of honor and integrity and character and boldness and vision? Where are the men of intelligence and goodness who can inspire us and uplift us to great things? We don't have very many leaders. We have a lot of politicians, but we don't have very many leaders. There's an old saying that the politician is the person who thinks about the next election. The statesman is the person who thinks about the next generation. And I think we have too many politicians and not enough statesmen, because very few people think beyond fundraising for the next election. So, your job and my job is to realize that leadership is not something that is conferred upon people who lead mighty armies into battle. Leadership is something that each individual expresses and demonstrates in their behaviors. And if you act like a leader, if you think like a leader and behave like a leader, you are one. You are one. So let us talk about the qualities of leadership. There have been 3,300 studies done on leadership that I have looked at over the years. Each of them has been an attempt to examine what are the qualities that makes one person an exceptional person. Because when we talk about leaders, we're talking about people who are a cut above the average, as you are. And we know that if you can find out what these people do most of the time and do the same thing, then you keep your A, right? We stay in the top 10%. So the first quality, number one quality, 3,300 studies, right from the top, the first quality, number one, is vision. We say leadership is the critical factor in the success of any organization. It's also the critical factor in the success of any company, any career, any family. It is leaders have specific vital qualities and perform specific vital functions. And number one is leaders have vision. We find over and over again, leaders can see the future. Leaders have what is called long-time perspective. Now, Dr. Edward Banfield of Harvard University studied this for years. And he was studying success in America. He was studying what he called upward social mobility. In other words, what causes people to rise up through socioeconomic classes over the years. Banfield found that there are 7 financial or socioeconomic categories in America, from lower class to upper lower class to lower middle class, middle class, upper middle class, lower upper class, and upper class. And each one of these has specific characteristics. They have specific values. They have specific likes, dislikes, tastes, levels of education, activities, and so on. And of course, what he found is that if you acted in a manner consistent with one of these levels, you became that. And you did not become that until you did. And he said, what, though, is the attitude that most predicts upward social mobility, that most predicts success in America? And he said the attitude was long-time perspective. Is that men and women who rose in their fields were people who thought long-term, and those who did not rise were people who did not. And he found the very act of thinking long-term dramatically increases your likelihood of great success in life. It's the difference between looking at your feet as you walk along and looking at the mountaintop that you're aiming at. So what do we find? We find that leaders have vision. Leaders have a vision of the future. They see the big picture. They look into the distance and they say, what could be? And they have the ability to visualize an ideal future. And this is one of the most important things we found in leaders, is leaders are always idealizing, visualizing, imagining where they want to be in 3 to 5 years. One of the exercises we do in visualization, and I'll just tell you the exercise, you don't have to do it, is we have everybody close their eyes and we say, all right, while your eyes are closed, I want you to imagine that this room, like a room in a spaceship, goes into a time warp. And while your eyes are closed for a few seconds, 5 years pass. And you open your eyes and you're in the same place, and your glass of water is at the same level, but 5 years have gone by. Now, something wonderful has happened in that 5 years. And what has happened is that your whole life has been made perfect in every respect. A miracle has been, magic wand has been waved over every dimension of your life, and your life is now perfect. Every aspect of your life, all your dreams have been fulfilled, all your goals have been achieved. Now here's the question. What would it look like if 5 years from now your life were ideal in every respect? Where would you be in 5 years? Who would you be with? Who would you no longer be with? What would you be doing? How well would you be doing it? How much would you be earning? What level would you be at in your profession? What would be your position? What kind of home would you live in? What kind of car would you drive? What would be your level of physical fitness? What would your family be like in your relationships? How would your children be doing? If your life were perfect in every respect 5 years from now, what would it look like? This is a critical question because I'll tell you two things. Number one is that the 5 years are going to pass. And 5 years from now, there you'll be. The second thing is this, is that if you're absolutely crystal clear about what it would look like if your life were perfect in 5 years, your chances of making that a reality go up by about 1,000%. They just escalate. All successful men and women have a vision of the future. The work that's being done in strategic planning with major corporations today is all revolving around Gary Prahaled's work on what is called strategic intent. And strategic intent says, what is your intent? Where do you want to be in 5 to 10 years? What do you want your company to look like, your life to look like, your products and services to look like? And what kind of a person will you have to be? What kind of a company will you have to have? What kind of core competencies will you have to develop in order to have that life 5 years out? I promise you this, if you can define that clearly today, you develop long-time perspective, which dramatically increases your likelihood of moving up socioeconomically, and you increase your likelihood of getting there by hundreds and hundreds of %, just by being crystal clear. My favorite word, as you know, and you hear me say it all the time, in terms of success is clarity. Clarity, clarity. The major reason why people move ahead rapidly is they're crystal clear about where they want to go and what it will look like when they get there. And the major reason that people underperform is because of fuzziness. They have no idea. They're like Columbus. You remember the Columbus type of people? When he set off for the New World, he didn't know where he was going. And when he got there, he didn't know where he was. And when he got back, he didn't know where he'd been. And this is how most people go to work every day. We call this the Columbus type of salesperson. They don't know where they're going. They don't know where they are. To them, every day is a new adventure. You know, every stop sign is a new adventure. Do I go left? Do I go right? Do I go straight ahead? Who knows? But successful people are like arrows. Think of that Kevin Costner movie, Robin Hood, and that incredible scene with the arrows. Remember that, where the arrow splits the arrow, but you're watching the arrow? Be like that. Be like a person who splits the arrow, who's absolutely so crystal clear about what you want that a person could wake you up at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, Pete, it's not here. What do you really want in life? You go, boom. You could tell them. You'd know out of a dead sleep. Most people would say, why are you waking me up? I have no idea. Okay. Number A is leaders think about the future. Leaders think about the future. It's one of the characteristics of superior people, by the way, is they spend a lot of time thinking about the future. Average people don't bother. They think about the present. They think about tension-relieving activities rather than goal-achieving. They think about going home and watching television. They think about reading the paper. They think about little petty problems today. Here's an interesting point from Emerson, is you can tell how big you are by the sort of things that irritate you. If you are continually griping and complaining because, you know, the candy on your pillow was a little bit to the right or a little bit to the left, then you've got a pretty small mind. But if the things that bother you are the fact that our governments are far too big and our taxes are far too high and there's far too much corruption in high places and Red China is rearming, I mean, if you're concerned about bigger things in life, then you're a bigger person. You can tell how big you are by the things that preoccupy you. B, what are your values? Critical part of leadership is values. What are your values? What do you stand for? We'll come back to this, by the way, but what do you believe in? You see, leaders have a very interesting characteristic. Leaders know exactly who they are. They know exactly who they are. It's an interesting quality that's come out in recent studies. They know who they are. They know what they stand for and what they believe in. They know what they will not compromise. They know what their values are and the order of priority. And you cannot tell them, well, have you ever thought of doing this or doing that? They know who they are. You don't need to tell them. Non-leaders are very fuzzy. They're not sure. Remember we talked yesterday about self-ideal, your values, your vision, your goals, your aspirations. Leaders are very clear about who they are and what they stand for and where they're going. Non-leaders are kind of, well, maybe to the right, maybe to the left. Maybe yes, maybe no. It's like, you know, for $64,000, sir, are you the kind of person who can make quick decisions? Well, maybe yes, maybe no. A lot of people live their lives, maybe yes, maybe no. So number C, what is your mission? What is your mission for yourself and your life? What is your mission for yourself and your business? Leaders have mission. Mission, by the way, is the galvanizing force in your life. And a mission is an ideal future state. and it's in the present tense. Let me give you an example of a mission. People say, well, companies are supposed to have missions, not people. Nonsense. You're the president of your own company. Therefore, you need a mission for your own life, right? And the more clear your mission is, we've found over and over again, the more clear you are about where you want to be sometime in the future, the much likelier you are to achieve that. So we say a mission. Let us say your mission is I am. We always start off with I am. It's a present tense statement of a desired future condition. I am an outstanding professional in my field. I am admired and respected by everyone with whom I work. I am one of the highest paid and best remunerated people in my profession in the country. I am intensely service-oriented. I am liked and looked up to by everyone with whom I work, and I keep my life in a high level of balance with all the important things in my life in their proper places. There's a good mission. It's a pretty specific mission, but you know what you can do with a mission? You can hold it up and say, how are we doing? And you just keep comparing yourself to your mission. What do we know about leaders? Is leaders set very high standards for themselves. They don't need to have standards imposed on them from the outside. They set very high standards for themselves, and they continually compare themselves against their own standards. Am I living up to the best that is in me? Am I living up to the best that is in me? So you always have to ask yourself, am I living up to the best that is in me? Am I living up to my true mission in life? And your mission is to do something wonderful with your life. Your mission is to do something wonderful with your life. You see, you are extraordinary. I was thinking about this morning, that if you, like a runner, were to run 100% full blast for your entire life, you would never come within miles of utilizing your full potential. You'd never come within miles or shouting distance of becoming everything you're capable of becoming. The study in brain research is really interesting, and Stanford here has done a lot of interesting work in it. They say that nature, God, is extraordinarily generous with us and gives us enormous potentials, and all we have to do is use a fraction of them to have an extraordinary life. But the greater men and women just use a little fraction more. You don't have to leap buildings with a single bound in order to do extraordinary things. You just have to use a little bit more of what you already have. As I said yesterday, you don't have to be somebody different. You just have to be more of what you already are. And what you already are is extraordinary. Sometimes people say, what kind of a seminar is this? And I say it's a sales seminar. And it's a sales seminar in this sense, is that my job is to sell you on yourself. And if I'm successful, by the end of the day, you'll have bought. And every single time I'm successful and a person buys, and they walk out and they've bought themselves, they have accepted that they have extraordinary capabilities, and the nickel has dropped and it's locked in, and they've slammed the door on the doubts and fears and maybes and ifs and what ifs and so on. If a person walks out of here sold, their life will be extraordinary. When you walk out of here sold, and we use the word when you walk out of here sold tonight, your life will be extraordinary as well. And there are no limits, except the limits we impose on ourselves, right? Right? So it's very important. Set up a mission. And don't say, well, the other people could do it and you couldn't do it. Of course you could do it. Of course you could do it. Anything anybody else has done, you could do as well. Isn't that right? Anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you. Right? All right. Number 2 is courage. Now, of all the research that's been done, courage is number 2. And courage means the courage to fulfill the vision. Say, it's one thing to have a great vision of what you'd like to do and a mission and a purpose and values and clarity and everything else. We can all do this. It was Goethe, the German philosopher, who said you can develop any quality in solitude except character. Character requires the cut and thrust of the world. You can sit in an ivory tower in a little room with the door closed, and you can just be a super person. You can have wonderful qualities, but if you want to be a person of character, you've got to go out into the world where you have to deal with problems that come with hair on top, if you know what I mean. In other words, courage is absolutely essential, because you can have vision in a closed room, but courage is when you go outside and now you have to do something. Now you have to face and risk failure and rejection and loss and disappointment and disapproval and ridicule and embarrassment and poverty and everything else. Now you have to move out of the comfort zone. Now you have to do scary stuff. I'm going to give you a philosophical point that comes from that great American philosopher, Michael Jordan. Yesterday I said one of the most important principles of all is everything counts. Everything counts. Everything counts. Weak people say, well, it doesn't matter. Superior people say everything counts. You will find, by the way, the very best people in every field are the ones who are the most fastidious about the details in that field. The very worst people in every field are the ones who are sloppy about the details. The very act of paying attention to details makes you a superior person. The very act of ignoring or sloughing off details moves you down on the ladder of evolution. All your best people are meticulous about details. Simple one-liner, no extra charge. And everything counts. Everything counts. Everything helps or hurts. Everything adds up or takes away. Nothing is neutral. Everything counts. But here's what the great American philosopher Michael Jordan said: just do it. Just do it. This is one of the great rules for success in life. Once you have a goal and a plan and a purpose and a mission and a focus, just do it. The world is full of people, the bottom 90%, who are talkers. They're talkers and procrastinators. They're excuse makers and rationalizers. They're dreamers and deniers, and they live in a world of self-illusion. But the top 10% of people are action-oriented. They just do it. Now, does this mean that top people like yourself are unafraid? No, you're afraid. I'm afraid. We're all afraid. Every one of us is afraid. Nothing wrong with that. Fear goes with the territory. The only question is, do you act in spite of the fear, or do you have the fear overwhelm you? Do you allow the fear to dominate your life, or do you confront the fear and do it anyway? And the answer is, superior people are afraid, but they act anyway. Average people are afraid, and they are paralyzed. They think of all the reasons why it might not work.